Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm Jay Fidell.
And I'm Sachi Slomoff.
In our show this time, we'll help the American Institute of Architects celebrate April as Architecture Month, just as proclaimed by Governor David Ige.
We'll join the AIA walking tour of 20th century architectural styles in Honolulu. We met our guides at the AIA office on Fort Street early in the morning on a given Saturday to take a special walking tour around downtown to scope out all of the diverse architectural styles we have in Honolulu. What a treat it was.
This is the newest of the buildings on this block, built in 1930. When it was built, the A&B Building was brand new because it was built in 1929. This building is stylistically very different from all of the other buildings on the block, and in fact, it's actually rather unique as a, if you will, corporate headquarters. Brewer was one of the big five sugar companies, and they designed this building, I think, really to reflect their philosophy and the basic nature of what they did as a business. The designers were Meyer, Murray, and Phillips. Hardy Phillips was the specific architect, and the Cook family, who was, and actually at that time was Richard Cook? Yeah, was in charge of Brewer, and their family had done a lot of work with the Meyer, Murray, and Phillips firm. They incorporated in the design of the building several key elements that spoke about their business. The sugar cube light fixtures at the top that illuminate the space were inspired by what they did. They have hat racks and the railings are in this space all speak to the sugarcane past of the company. There are railings that you're leaning against there that are original railings to the building. Not that many years ago, this building was at least partially restored, and a lot of these elements were brought back into the building.
We moved into this building in 2011. You can see some of the numbers behind me. We do about $45 million a year of grants out the door to support nonprofits. There are also, in addition to the architectural features, we've been gifted, the Hawaii Community Foundation has been gifted some art pieces, and which you can see around in the lobby. This was Doc Byer's office. Doc Byer was the CEO for Brewer Company, and this was his office. As I said, we help donors of all sizes give back to the community. Doc actually created a fund with us, and we work with his children and grandchildren to make grants out into the community in his name. The railings that are here you can see the spurs and the horseshoes that are on the railings here that are part of the ranching operation for the Brewer Company on Hawaii Island.
This building was completed about end of 1929, 1930. Right before the completion of Brewer Building, right after Alexander and Baldwin Building. This was, for those of you who don't know, built by Walter Dillingham, who founded Dillingham Dredging and Construction, eventually turned into Honolulu Dredging and Construction. And he built this building in honor of his father, Benjamin Dillingham, who started Oahu Railway. And the family business grew from there and involved a lot of transportation service, not only maritime, but the railway, as well as sugar and plantation stuff. Because of that, the relationship to the name Transportation Building, Dillingham Transportation Building, that's the reason why they named the building that.
This is the Alexander and Baldwin Building. It was built in 1929 by the Alexander Baldwin Company as not only a headquarters for their company, but as a testament to the founders of the company. It was built by C.W. Dickey in 1929. He was known for creating the Hawaiian regional style. So it was the first architectural style that was really developed here in Hawaii and wasn't imported from somewhere else.
It was commissioned by King Kamehameha V as a hotel that would be able to host foreign dignitaries and royal friends and family. So this was hence very close to Iolani Palace. Now and does anybody know the name of this street? It's Hotel Street because of this. Yeah. So in 1916, fast forwarding to 1916, the YMCA purchased this property. It was the time of World War I. And there were a lot of young men coming, enlisted men coming from the mainland here, and they needed a place that they could be quartered. Now remember that at this time, Honolulu had a thriving downtown, thriving red light district here too. So this formed like a really nice alternative. It had, a lot of, a lot of guest rooms and, healthy recreation. By 1920s, that building had been there for quite a while, and it was starting to it was basically wearing and tearing. So the building was torn down. Now 1920s was also the time of a major development boom in Honolulu, and actually it was known as the golden age of architecture. So this actually, you have visited a couple of the buildings that were from the same era. All the first 3 buildings that you visited are from this period, and the next building that you're going to go to is also from this period. So the architects, so when the YMCA commissioned this building, they worked with 2 local architects, Emery and Webb, also designed the Hawaii Theater, and the architect who designed the Dillingham Building, which is Lincoln Rogers, and he's from California. So with him came the style which was prevalent in the mainland, which was the Spanish Mission Revival style. It does have the old Spanish tile work on the walls and the floors, and then it's got some ornamental light features, light fixtures and things. When you look through all of these buildings, it's kind of fun to connect how these buildings were influenced by what was happening around, like the local context, what was happening around in Europe, in the mainland.
The state capitol was finally finished in 1968. It was designed by John Carr Warnicki of San Francisco and my firm, which was called Lamont Freeth, Haynes and Jones in those days. A building like this has what we call symbols. And there are 3 major symbols in the design. Number 1, we are an island state, so the building rises out of the water. The second thing is that we are a volcanically created state, so therefore the House and Senate chambers are shaped like volcanoes and faced with volcanic rock. The third theme, the royal palm tree has always been significant to the Ali'i. So these tremendous columns that you can glimpse through there, the tops of the column, are reminiscent of royal palm trees. So those are the 3 themes that go into the building. Now we can't go in there. How many of you have been in there before? A lot of you have. Well, what you remember is that there's one tremendous open space, and that is open to the sky, because in Hawaii we like to be able to be indoors and outdoors. On the first level, you can go and sit in a gallery looking over the Senate on this side and the House on the other side. The idea is that we want to have a very open political system in Hawaii. The next level up has the offices of the House of Representatives members, and then the next one up above has the Senate members. And then there are departments of the government, and then finally on the very top there's the governor on one side and the lieutenant governor on the other. What is very important is that the only way that the legislators can get out of their offices and to go where they're going to meet, which is one level below where we're standing, is to go out onto a wide lanai, about 12 feet wide, where all of their constituents can be yelling, vote for this or don't vote for that.
My name is Mark Ayers. I'm an architect with Ferraro Choi Associates, and with me is my partner in crime, Jason Takeuchi, also a young architect with our firm, Ferraro Choi. So I'm here to talk to you about Julia Morgan's terrific YWCA building, and feel free to just kind of gaze around, look at the photos, which I'll also point out to you, and we'll have hopefully a little time for questions at the end. So as I said, this is the YWCA Honolulu, designed by Julia Morgan and completed in 1927. The birth of this project stems from earlier works by Julia for the Atherton family and their devotion to creating a YWCA in Hawaii. When the Athertons' daughter Kate died in 1919, they gave their homestead called Fernhurst, plus land and money to the Y as a memorial. During the renovation of Fernhurst into a women's hotel, Julia and the Y conceived of a non-residential headquarters. By 1925, this site across from Iolani Palace had been chosen and blueprints had been drawn. Now, design for the Y came at the same time as she was designing and overseeing the vast construction of Hearst Castle in San Simeon. Needless to say, the difficulty this entailed from over 2,000 miles away in the early 20s, Julia was beholden to the assistance of one of her office engineers, Bjarne Dahl, and architect Edward Hussey to see to the project's completion. Upon its opening, Honolulu Advertiser described it as stately, beautiful, dignified, yet radiating a friendliness of spirit and invitation of welcome. Bjarne recalled later that Julia's drawings for this urban Honolulu building gave the impression of it being out in the country, which was much to Julia's delight. The Mediterranean style was peaking in popularity in the mainland United States, in Florida and California during the 20s, and was clearly well suited for Hawaii. And Julia had already designed a number of her other California clubs to similar style. She carried out the motif with the use of stuccoed walls, tiled roofs, arched windows, and iron balconies, and integrated indoor and outdoor spaces which flow into each other. From the carved teak front door that you entered, through the lobby, and across the loggia separating the pool and the courtyards. The building consists of two structures linked by a two-story loggia and includes an outdoor court and swimming pool backed by a tile fountain with decorative lion heads, dolphins, and pineapples. The Makai Courtyard, once lavishly landscaped with random pattern and grass between, now offers a utilitarian paved hardscape for tables and outdoor eating. Fronting this space is now Cafe Julia, the former cafeteria, which is enclosed by grills and screens on three sides.
We're going to talk about the first Hawaiian Center. This building was designed in the early 90s by the firm of Cohn Peterson Fox. Cohn Peterson Fox is an internationally renowned architecture firm that does mostly high-rises. What you're looking at here is the tallest building in Hawaii. It is 428 and 11.5 inches tall. We did a little bit of research. We keep finding different numbers for both the height, total cost, all the different facts and figures about the building, but we're pretty sure about that one. It's 30 stories tall, and it's 3 stories down. When it was first built, they excavated out the site and actually built concrete retaining walls around it, sort of like a bathtub, like they do in New York City. If you've seen any of the building of the Freedom Tower, replacing the World Trade Center, they did something very similar, and they had to build these huge retaining walls down there, and they actually left one of the original ones from the World Trade Center down there. What's significant about this building, besides being the tallest in Hawaii, is that when it was built, the height limit was only 350 feet. And so obviously it was built taller, and when they first designed it, they wanted to build it 450 feet. The state said, no, only 400 feet, we'll let you do that. But then they showed them the design, and what's neat about it is that one of the things that Peterson does is he tries to break up his buildings with different masses. So if you look at this building, you can see the vertical mass here, and then this very dynamic plane on this side. And when you wrap around the other building, you'll notice that the windows on that side are all horizontal, and the windows on this side are vertical. And that's a bit of an homage to the relationship in Hawaii that people respect the ocean and the mountain. So this side facing Mauka, the mountain, is vertical, and the side facing the ocean is horizontal.
For those who don't know, Bishop is actually named after the founder of this bank. It's Charles Reed Bishop. So it started back, he's a boy from New York. He settled here, he made this his home. So in 1958, he and this other partner started this first bank. So First Hawaiian Bank wasn't called First Hawaiian Bank initially. It's Bishop and Limited. And then it was later changed to First Hawaiian Bank back in 1969. That's sort of the history of the bank. A little bit about the architect. They're also known for their plaza designs. So if you notice, the other buildings around town here, 43% of the plaza area is reserved for pedestrian-friendly.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Tonya Moy. I work for Fung Associates, and I'm going to talk about the financial plaza here, which includes 3 buildings, which is hard to see from where you're standing, but there's actually 3 buildings as part of this complex. So there's really a lot of really interesting things going on here. It was developed, first let's put this in context. In Hawaii, this is built in 1968. It's right after statehood. Hawaii is flush with money, right? And there's all these, and it's the 60s. I mean, you know, things are going on all over the world. So rather than having international style architecture, which you've probably seen a lot of, which is the glass block, then they decided to do this in brutalist style, which at that time was kind of a reaction to the glass coldness. And because it's a financial institution, they wanted something more sturdy looking, so that's why brutalism. But also, just to let a little interesting fact about brutalism, which most people think it's called that because it's brutal. But it really started because the French architect Le Corbusier, he was very much into this style of architecture, and it was called Breton Brut, which I'm sure I'm killing the French language, but it was called because it was raw concrete. So it was the reason for doing this style was more like to have an honesty in architecture, to have it true, not glassed over, painted over. So, but I think some art critic or architecture critic started calling it brutalism, and it's just stuck after that. But the interesting thing is this was developed or planned by Victor Gruen, who a lot of people call the father of the mall in America. I mean, not the mall in America, but he started with urban renewal projects. Because in the 60s, again, a lot of the downtowns were dying. Everybody had an automobile. Everybody was going to suburbia. So his idea was to have these malls in downtown, which is like 4th Street Mall. And that was part of his plan, was to have this 4-block redevelopment with 4th Street Mall as its center.
So we're going to visit Harbor Court. It's a fairly new building that was done in 1994, completed in 1994. I was the planning director of the City and County of Honolulu when that building was built, so I'll tell you a little bit about that. I'm sure that kind of maybe summarize today what you've seen. You've seen some historic structures, some very iconic historic structures done by some very, very good architects way back in the 1900s. Hartwood, the Brewer Building by Phillips, Julia Morgan, the YWCA. And so those are great structures, kind of Mediterranean revival, we call it. And then you visited some of the newer buildings. First Hawaiian Bank, which was done by Cohn Peterson Fox in New York. And that little gray building is they probably talked about it's a condominium. It's the first condominium in Honolulu, and it was done by Leo Wu. And just as a sidebar, there was a piece of glass that fell from the 29th floor, and luckily it was on a Sunday and nobody got hurt. What used to be here is a 3-story, 3-level parking structure that the city owned, and it was pretty tough because we had a whole bunch of illegal, illicit activities going on, and parking structures in downtown at nighttime was just kind of a haven for the homeless and so forth. So the city placed the property, and it's about 1.2 acres in size. The parking structure had about 335 cars. So the city placed the project as a request for proposal. We had several developers, I guess, showed us models and drawings for this redevelopment of the property. This is probably the first mixed-use project in downtown Honolulu, where it has residential towers, public parking and private parking, and an office building and restaurants. The fluted columns are resting on water. I think it's very clever that he was able to bring the ocean, kind of echoing or talking to the ocean a little bit, and bring the water inside the building. And then, of course, the columns looks like they're floating on water. It's the gateway to Honolulu. As you come into Nemitz Highway, it's the first building you see. And you'll see that the building, when we go over to the other side, the building terraces down a little bit. And why is that? That's because the city said, well, right across the street on Bethel Street is the beginning of the Chinatown district, which has an 80-foot height limit. So what we wanted to do was respect that height of the lower buildings on Chinatown, rather than having a 350-foot tall building right up against the street.
So we need to know what good architecture is and how to motivate property owners to build our city in a way that reflects not only efficiency and aesthetics, but also the best of our diversity and culture as we know it.
Architects and architecture are very important to our community and our society. These architects design the buildings and public spaces that define our activities and quality of daily life. We cannot afford to marginalize or ignore them. They are central to our communal sense of well-being.
The revelation is that we're in a historical tipping point in Honolulu and in the state. It's not only the past, as we observed on our tour, but it's the future, our future.
It's not only the architects that are responsible for our city and our civic life, it's all of us, including the government, business, property owners, and we, the people. These buildings and this infrastructure will be around for a long time and won't be easy to tear down, so we'd better plan them carefully.
Will they be something the people can enjoy, or will enjoyment be limited to people who pay for the condo units hundreds of feet in the air?
We are building high-rise condominiums in Kaka'ako, but are they and their surrounding public spaces adequate for our needs, our tastes, and our civic interaction? The structures we build not only define the way we live, they are a statement of who we are.
With that very thought in mind, ThinkTech is organizing a Downtown Forum lunch and panel program on May 21st to explore public spaces in Hawaii. How do we plan, design, build, manage, maintain, and preserve our public spaces? We'll be talking more about that later in the program.
This is the time to think about the design of Kaka'ako and the new chapter of architecture and design throughout the state. All the more reason to examine our existing architecture, find vision as to the way it should be going forward, and speak out on the subject. And now let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
ThinkTech broadcasts its talk shows live on the internet from noon to 5 p.m. on weekday afternoons, and then we broadcast our earlier shows all night long. If you missed a show or you want to replay or share any show, they're all archived on demand on YouTube.
Visit thinktechhawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links, or to join our email list and get these links and program advisories on our upcoming shows.
We also invite you to be part of our live audience at our downtown studio in Pioneer Plaza. Contact me, Jay, at thinktechhawaii.com. Raise your awareness in every way on ThinkTech.
As we mentioned earlier, on May 21st, ThinkTech will present its May Downtown Forum Luncheon Panel program on the subject of public spaces in Hawaii. How can we plan, design, build, manage, maintain, and preserve them?
We'll ask how important are public spaces to our quality of life. Hawaii is at risk of being paved over, so how can we preserve our public spaces and realize the new openness we want for our community?
Join us for this important discussion. Get current on the often exciting and in some ways threatening things that are going on in our city. Be part of the conversation and sign up to attend on thinktechhawaii.com. We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech. But first, we want to thank our underwriters.
Okay, Sachi, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like Sachi does. For additional times, check out OC16.tv.
Definitely, Jay. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be a guest or volunteer, a producer or intern, and help us reach Hawaii.
Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech and for supporting tech, energy diversification, and globalism in Hawaii. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. I'm Jay Fidell.
I'm Sachi Slomoff. Aloha, everyone.